Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Dungeons & Dragons and the lore that surrounds them.
Hello there, creatures, and welcome to another episode of Encounter This, where I, Freeman, Mantis style, Heiston, will be brought through the creatures known as, I believe they're called the Thri-Kreen?
They are, you nailed it, yeah.
Yeah. Very odd name. I was brought through them by, of course, my longtime companion here, James Devil's Horse Kid, as we all know him. And if you want to follow along, you can open up your monster manual on page 288 and see what the hell happens.
Should we address what's happening right now?
I mean, I was trying to pretend like it wasn't a thing. I'm doing a lot of arm motions here.
I know, but it's going to make me laugh this whole fucking app.
For the record, listeners, we're testing video recording for this episode.
Again.
Again, yeah. This time with a little more polish. A polish that might actually see the light of day as opposed to what we did before, which we'll probably never.
Definitely no promises, except to you, our Patreons, because I am telling Freeman now, live-ish on air, that we're just going to drop it to you guys and see how you feels.
I'm cool with that. It's cool.
Even if it
you
doesn't
can now
reach
hear,
the
now
YouTubes.
You will now have a visual representation of when I giggle in my throat. It's actually me holding beer in my mouth, going and try not to do a spit take.
I'm gonna queue up some jokes so I can try and make him fall out of his chair laughing.
Oh, good. So yeah, I mean, let's just beeline through. If there's any weird audio only jokes that no one gets, it's probably because of my random actions on the video. Yeah. But I'll try to keep it legit.
Big apologies to our editor, Duncan.
Please tell me about this creature that I undoubtedly read about once, because I've absolutely at one point read the monster manual start to finish, but I remember absolutely nothing about these creatures other than they're insectoid, I believe, and that's all I've got.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. So I went into this thinking that these were ant people, and they are not, as I'm sure you can gather by Freeman's nickname. They actually are supposed to resemble a giant bipedal praying mantis.
Okay, I love it. And praying mantis, super cool.
And
super
that's
cool
not
creature.
Mechanically giant. That's giant in relation to an actual mantis.
Yeah, sure. Technically, mechanically, there is no giant.
Right.
Giants are large. True. Yeah.
Well, giant is a subtype.
True. Oh, that's true. But not a size mechanic.
Not a size type, no.
Yeah, we're getting into semantics here.
We're getting into
as we
real
like to
bad
do.
Semantics. We're real nervous. It's like learning how to do the show all over again.
The floor is yours, please.
So they stand about 1.4 to 2.1 meters tall, and that's from fledgling all the way up to full-grown adults, I think is what they're called. And that's 4.6 to 7 feet for you listeners who use that type of measurement.
Yeah, I use both.
All right. They weigh anywhere from 90 kilos to about 110 kilos or 200 pounds is kind of their average. And they have this exoskeleton that covers their bodies. And we have an image. For those of you watching this video. This just in. We have an image. We can finally do visual jokes.
Oh God, that was good.
So this is the art from 1E.
Yeah,
and they have this exoskeleton that covers their bodies that varies from sandy brown to a pale yellow, and they use it as camouflage to help blend in their environments. And this art for 1E is really well done.
really good, like compared to some. Yeah, doesn't
Yeah,
really get the Sandy Brown across, but yeah,
that's fair.
it's got some great
It's black and
detail.
white,
Yeah,
but the shading is really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
You can see why I thought they were ant people and not mantis people. So there's that.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have the 2E art, I believe that is.
Mm,
It's kind of cell shaded, like it looks really comic booky, but I really like it.
yeah, it really does.
And that'll all be
Yeah, that's
available on Instagram as usual. And then we have the 5E art, which just wonderful.
oh this is the 5e art.
This should be the 5E art, yeah.
Okay, really cool. Wow, that's a it still looks very ant-like, I should say.
Yeah, that's kind of why I
um,
thought they were ant-like. Um,
yeah.
oh no, sorry, this is the 3E art. My apologies.
Okay.
It's really reminiscent of the 5 year. I hope you can see why I figured why I messed that up. It's got this really soft background, a nice polish on the
Mm.
creature.
Yeah, that background is usually a giveaway for a lot of 5e stuff, so I can see that.
Yeah.
It
So
is a great piece of art though, really really nice.
yeah, really dramatic. And then we have the 5e art, and this is what you would expect it to be. The colors are really nice.
That
Um
I recognize.
yeah. It's got its limbs. So they have 6 limbs coming from their thorax. They have 2 for walking, so they are bipedal creatures, and they have 4
Mhm.
for tool use. 2 of those 4 are much larger, and 2 are quite a bit smaller. But they're
Yeah,
mechanically they don't really change their use.
gotcha.
And they have this really insectoid head that really comes across in the 1E art.
Mm,
Where they have these small 2 small eyes, which doesn't come across no one art. These 2 giant eyes that are much like bulbous
mhm. Yeah,
uh, antennae, and they have a very complex jaw as well as the sharp mandibles. They have a jaw and the mandibles underneath, which comes a little
okay.
across a little bit better in the 2E art.
Yeah.
And their mouths secrete a paralyzing poison, but only enough for 1 venomous bite per day. So it's very small quantities, and they can store it up and then release on command.
Okay.
We've
So
got an
just
average.
one solid injection
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. It's probably a mechanic from a previous edition to limit its use against the players, because I imagine it was probably quite dangerous, but I didn't look it up because
Mhm.
do doing everything you see around me if you're watching this. And they have an average lifespan of 29 to 35 years. So they're
Oh, so
quite
quite short.
young.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they wear very little clothing or armor, but have been seen with belts, bandoliers, harnesses, or slings. They're all completely utilitarian, and they're used to hold gear, food, weapons, just things they might need when they're out and about. They're not creatures of lavish at all.
Mhm.
And this gear
No
has been
luxuries.
no, no, none at all. And this gear has been prized by collectors. So if you're out and about and you happen to have a Thri-Kreen weapon, they sell pretty well.
Okay.
And fun fact, their heads can be hollowed out and worn as a helmet or a mask.
That is so macabre and I love it. I love it so much. I always love the idea of like chitinous armor, where
Yeah.
you've defeated some sort of like exoskeleton style creature and you've pulled it apart and you've managed to repurpose its own protection for yourself. I always love that. But going as far as hollowing out someone's head
Yeah.
to use the helmet, it's a kind of a different level of that, eh?
That's huge.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're an ancient race. I never had any idea about the backstory, and of course there's an ambulance going by the first time we do video.
Can't we just let the emergencies take a break? Come on.
Just one night.
Just one night in Vancouver.
So they're an ancient race predating humans and mind flayers by millions of years. So that should give you an idea of how old they are.
Mhm.
Thousands of years before recorded time is the best estimates currently, and they spread all over the crystal sphere, and they are known as the people of the Celestial Mantis.
Okay.
So they're one of the weird creatures where their creation is really well detailed. So they used to write poems and songs and things like that about an ancient race called the Juna, I think is how it's pronounced.
Hmm.
But nowhere in the D&D lore does it specify how they were actually created. It just says that to the Thri-Kreen, their um create or to the people of Celestial Mantis, their creationist lore was well known. And the Juna were a lost race. Ra- the Juna were a lost race from the wild space known as the Lost Gods.
Okay. Okay. So we're kind of harkening back here to our Illithid improvised Illithid series where we're
Yeah.
talking about crystal spheres, where like our sort of our own solar system would count as a crystal sphere almost, and then anything beyond that is wild space. Um, so so yeah, when you say they were spread all over the crystal sphere, it's like kind of like saying within the solar system of like the Forgotten Realms and whatnot.
I was really
Um,
hoping you'd be able to fill that in.
yeah, yeah, that I'm from that's what I recall anyway.
Yeah.
It's been a bit, but I did go down that rabbit hole. So, yeah, that's pretty cool actually. I love the idea of I mean, we're talking. It's a pretty classic trope of like something more powerful was the progenitor of this sort of creature, and then that creature was spread wide. It wasn't just planted in one spot. It was spread across multiple spots. Even if in the grand scheme it was a small area, it's still a huge amount of area,
Yeah,
and that's fun.
maybe it's because I'm
It's like
rewatching them.
Alien-esque, right?
That's what I was going to say. Maybe it's because I'm
Yeah, it's
rewatching them, but it
xenomorph.
kind of reminds me of the plot of Prometheus and Alien.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these people of the Celestial Mantis, they were incredibly religious and worshipped the Mantis god of the Eternal Lotus.
Okay,
No more details to be found on that.
fair enough.
But they're very ancient. Nope. But their current descendants are quite a bit different to these people of the Celestial Mantis. They do have some of the same abilities. They have a higher strength and agility compared to a human. They're very quick on their feet and good jumpers. They typically have heightened senses, hiding, jumping, climbing, bouncing, all that stuff. And one of the things they've retained is that they are also naturally psionic. So,
Oh,
yeah. So each Thri-Kreen has psionic energy and a number of innate powers.
okay. This is something that's just like consistent with something that's rumored or believed to come from wild space. So
Yeah.
far in our experience, yeah,
And
psionic abilities.
and because of this psionic energy and their ancient ancestry, they don't sleep and they don't have the need to sleep and they have great eyesight in the dark.
Hmm. Okay.
So all of these things combined to in their descendants to give them the ability to hunt very well, and they tend to get very close when they hunt to observe their prey and plan out their attacks before um, ever actually engaging. They'll use their
Hmm.
psionic powers to boost set abilities, and then when they get into combat, they'll use their mandibles and claws, and sometimes they're even seen using weapons, as you can see in some of the images over here.
Yep.
So in the 5e art specifically, you can
They seem
see,
to prefer glaives or pole arms or whatever. But yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the prized items for collectors. It's called a Githka. It is a double-ended crescent-headed pole arm, very similar
Cool.
to the Gikan pole arm used in the Qing Dynasty. It is not how
Okay.
you pronounce that, I can guarantee it, but I wasn't smart enough to look it up ahead of time. So I apologize to any of our Chinese listeners.
Yeah. Our
And then in its smaller hands, you can actually see what's called a katkacha. It is a three-pointed triangle throwing weapon made from an unknown crystalline material, which is basically just a modernized ninja star fidget spinner. And I couldn't find any evidence of a
Okay,
three-pointed
yeah,
throwing weapons being rooted in
yeah,
antiquity. You
gotcha.
see those mall ninja
I
throwing
did
stars
notice
that are
that.
three-pointed.
Yeah, I assumed it was a piece of origami. Uh, no, I didn't. But it did remind me of like a shuriken or some sort of
Yeah,
throwing weapon.
yeah, it's very much a shuriken. And in their society has changed quite a bit since they were the people of the Celestial Mantis. They currently have no clear gender, personality, or emotional state, though rapid twitching of the antenna can signal annoyance.
Okay.
Uh, they're technically chaotically aligned, but they're not actually. It just appears to be like an how do I want to say this? It doesn't appear to be their natural inclination because they don't really seem to have a knowledge of good and evil. It just makes them inscrutable and therefore lumped in as chaotic.
So is this one of those like they're chaotic compared to the more air quote civilized races?
I think so.
Eh, but rather like they probably have like not a hive mind, but they are a colony and they have their own laws or rules and like codes that they abide by as a collective, and it makes sense to them. Just doesn't make sense to the other,
Yeah.
again, air quote civilized world.
Yeah, so they're
Uh,
they're viewed as less civilized and more primitive, but they're
mm,
definitely not. They're just
right.
different, and that different has them classified as
Yeah.
chaotic, though I don't think that's actually correct.
So we're kind of bordering on maybe an accidental problematic selection of alignment. Maybe they should be lawful neutral or something like that, or
It's
even true neutral.
it's really hard to pin them down, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean they see themselves as these noble hunters just solely focused on existence.
Hmm.
Um, and they did initially see humanoids as food, but then grew to see them as trading partners and maybe even allies in rare circumstances. So I can see where the chaotic comes from, but I think true
Yeah.
neutral is probably more accurate for anything that's not. I mean, they're not bestial, and I think that's probably why they're
Hmm.
chaotic neutral is because they think of themselves first. Though, but I don't think that fits in this particular
Right.
case.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I can see the blurred lines there. It's one of those moments where you're kind of like, the nine squares of the alignment system feel a little bit limiting, and like, oh, is there something in between those lines, or is there like a different set where we can say they're actually lawful chaotic
Right.
or something like that? uh, totally worth thinking over.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get the classification because they are hard to negotiate and they don't seek out other races and they don't value things that other races make. So,
Hmm.
initially classifying them that way kind of makes sense. But,
Yeah.
the more you get into it, the more you realize that these are actually a pretty um, deep creature.
Hmm.
And one of the things that makes them unique is they see farmers and cities as not hunters, which makes them not worth their attention at all. But
Oh.
anybody who despoils the land or wastes resources are seen as a threat and driven off immediately.
Okay, so they don't indulge themselves into agriculture or animal husbandry or anything like that. They
Yep,
just
strictly
purely
nomadic.
live off the land, nomadic. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, and they don't attack. They're not going to jump out at you unless you're pissing them off. But when they do
Mhm.
attack, they tend to kill without mercy or guilt because those are just concepts that don't seem to exist to them. You weren't
Mhm.
worthy of life because you
Right.
couldn't beat them, so you don't get to keep living.
Right. Again, that's a blurred line between chaotic and lawful right there.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it is so matter of fact and exacting that it's like very lawful, but it's also just like with reckless abandon at the same
Right, yeah.
time. Yeah.
And they have no religion to speak of, but druids can serve as spiritual leaders within their communities. And if one of them does happen to be a druid, They tend to worship deities like Sylvanas the Oak Father or Malar the Huntmaster, which are on very different ends of the spectrum. Malar is an evil deity, and Sylvanas is a neutral deity. So,
Okay.
uh,
Right.
and they do technically have their own language called Thri-Kreen, but it's made of whistles, snaps, and clicks. So it's not really humanoid beings don't tend to be capable of it without magical help. They, however, are very capable of speaking other languages and typically pick up another language if their pack lives close to a civilization. So they've been known to speak everything from Dwarven to Giant. Like, if they live
Oh,
close
wow.
enough, they'll just
Okay.
learn it. Yeah, and I imagine it's with
So
a
they're
pretty heavy
quite
accent.
adaptive. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's been the whole case of them throughout their entire history.
Neat. Really neat.
Yeah, but
I was
sadly
just
enough,
trying to find a meme that I can't remember if I share with you or not about how a dwarven language should actually not be guttural, but rather. Do you
yeah,
remember
you
this?
did. Yeah,
I couldn't quite find it, but it was pure gold. But it just rung true. And for the listeners, it was something to do with like the fact that like the language should reflect the fact that they live underground a lot amongst a lot of noise from mining. So it should be a lot of like large whistly and like overt sounds, not unlike yodeling.
yeah,
That has a proper range of frequencies and like bouncing off the walls and like being able to overcome other sounds and whatnot. It's like the meme is so perfect. It's just like, oh my god, like all and at the end it's like, no, all dwarves are Scottish. you know,
yeah.
let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Uh, but it just actually doesn't make sense that they would be.
No, it really doesn't. I mean,
It's
that
so
meme
good.
really got me. It was real good.
Yeah,
If we can
it was
find it,
so
we'll
funny.
post it on our Insta for this because I don't
Mm,
have many images. So
for sure. It's certainly in our Discord somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of the D&D Lord, which is kind of sad. I wish there
Okay.
was more
Yeah.
to these creatures. The Forgotten Realms page is pretty big, but that's honestly a thorough distillation of it.
Yeah, I mean, somehow I'm not surprised. Especially
No,
given
I'm not either.
they're like
We
a
don't get
nomadic
it.
sort of
Call it a day.
primitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm honestly just reminded of bullywugs at this point.
Oh yeah.
Just like they're in their own terrain and kind of considered outsiders, and they don't trust the civilization, and there might be some middle ground there at some point, but for the most part it's they're just separate. And then so like everything we're reading and seeing and interpreting here is like possibly from the perspective of a scholar, um an outside viewer of
Right.
the civilization, and we're basically just stuck with that as players and GMs, which is disappointing, but again also has a wide opening for interpretation.
Yeah, and I think
We
that's
can
the
do what we want
point
with
of
that.
a lot of these
Yeah.
creatures, right? Is to give you the opportunity to build and create and shape your own world. And like, here are the bricks
Yeah.
of this foundation, and
Hmm.
we keep bumping up against it. One of the reasons we tend to only cover the stuff in the Forgotten Realms is because it is more fleshed out, and that's clearly the stuff we're more interested in. Is the lore
Yeah.
that's there, and there's more of it. We're
Hmm.
with these episodes, we're not suggesting that you, the listener, take everything we're saying as fact. The idea is we hope to give you some cool insight into these creatures that you can then take and manipulate your own way instead of having to research throughout the editions like we are.
Yeah.
Unless you're into it, then fuck it, shoot us an email, maybe you can be the third co-host.
Yeah. Join the network.
Sure.
uh,
Encounter this 13th age. Fucking let's do it.
Encounter these.
Yeah, there we go.
As we go across all kinds of systems.
Encounter us. So that brings us to the cultural lore. And take a quick guess, Freeman. How well do you think Mantis people are represented in our everyday civilization?
I'm going to say little to none.
None would
And
be
I'm also
correct.
going to assume there is at least one comic book character involved in this, or comic book reference of some kind. There's got to be.
All right. Well, since there's no cultural lore, let's start off with some cool shit about mantises, because mantises are pretty cool.
Okay, whoa. Is it mantises or is it mantises?
I wrote mantises. I didn't even consider looking up the pluralization of it. And it's not correcting my spelling, so I say
or is
mantises.
it manti?
It's definitely not manti.
Yeah, well, go on.
Yeah. So in the 1900s in the Ozarks, they were called the Devil's Horses, which is so unbelievably specific. It makes me happy. Like in this one stupid region, I guess the Ozarks are stupid now. In this one region, in this very specific time window, they were only they were called Devil's Horses, and that was interesting enough to make it to the Wikipedia page.
Can you imagine that? That's just Lucifer riding a mantis like it's a horse for whatever reason.
Right? Like,
oh god, that's funny.
I guess if you live in that area, write in and let us know if you still call them the Devil's Horses, because that, like, first of all, why? Because they're not horses. Second of all, super cool name. Love it. Love what you're doing down there. Shoot us up some other weird names you have for creatures, because that's fantastic. But the word mantis comes from prophets and eidos, the typical meaning, eidos meaning type. So mantidos is like the family name.
Okay.
And it's called prophet because Greeks, our old friends, the ancient Greeks, thought it had the ability to point a lost traveler towards home. There's often some types of European mantises will be found perched on flowers or rocks or on trees with one arm hyperextended and one arm in as part of the camouflage to either appear as a stick or a leaf or something like that. So they would often be seen pointing. So
the Greeks look a little too far into that, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
how many Greeks were lost because they were following the pointing direction of a mantis?
I like to imagine all of them. But if they didn't look that far into things, we would never have anything to talk about on this show. Like they're half of our content.
Seriously. Well, thank God it wasn't all Greeks, technically. All Greeks following, maybe, but it wasn't all Greeks. Thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd have nothing.
That's how Europe got populated. They were just following mantids.
So, how did you meet your wife? Well, we both happen to follow the same mantis direction. We just bumped into each other on the trail. Oh God.
They also make a minor appearance in the Egyptian Book of the Dead called a bird fly, and they are a minor god. Did not know that.
Oh, all right then.
And
bird fly, I like it.
There are two separate mantis martial arts styles. There's the northern mantis and the southern mantis. Didn't look into any of them, but I thought that was fun.
Fair enough. That is, yep.
So mantises in our world have these two bulbous compound eyes and three smaller simple eyes. They have the same antennae. They have an extra flexible neck and a beak-like snout with mandibles. They don't have two bipedal legs. They have four bipedal legs, and then they're two striking arms.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Get you. Four bipedal legs. It's a bit of a misnomer, but yeah. I'm following you.
Don't know why that was so hard to get out, but it was.
They're quadrupeds with arms.
Yes, that is correct. And they, because they have these two bulbous eyes, they have stereo vision, which is rare in the insect kingdom, giving them depth perception akin to humans.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. because of this depth perception, they are adept hunters and ambush predators, preferring to hunt arthropods. And I'm probably going to get some of these wrong, but I have a real hard time Googling insect types because they're one of the things that I'm afraid of. So I believe arthropods are spiders, scorpions, caterpillars, centipedes, stuff like that without an exoskeleton, but still in the insectoid kingdom.
Yeah, generally something with like a the sort of like I mean chitinous esque sort of shell or skin that can be shed, I think, and regrown.
Yeah, I saw one picture of a centipede, and I had to pretty much pull the chute on that research. But their main defense is camouflage, and they are great mimics, as you can see in this image right here. There's one that mimics a butterfly, and there's one that mimics a leaf.
Super cool. That will endlessly fascinate me when insects and other animals can do that, but it's usually insects or something related to them that the guy can do it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
And
just for clarity of definition, real quick, an arthropod does include insects and spiders. They are invertebrates, so they have no vertebrae, and they do not have an internal skeleton or backbone, but they do have a hard exoskeleton outside.
Okay, cool. I guess they like crunching the exoskeleton with their nutcracker arms.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And it's nigh impossible to talk about the mantis without at least touching on sexual cannibalism.
Yes, this is sort of the famous fact that's possibly true.
Yeah, so it's not really a fact. So sexual cannibalism in general isn't really a common practice, specifically in mantids. It's way more common in species of spiders, but not the spider you're thinking of. So it's just not prevalent unless they're hungry and in captivity. It will happen. It does happen, but they're not. It's not an ability they're preclusive to. They don't just bite the head off the male after they mate. They just sometimes they do if they're real hungry and there's nothing else around, but it's not nearly as common as you think it is.
Okay, so it's really just a matter of the circumstance. Like, I haven't eaten in a while. We've just mated. I could use you as resources to make sure the babies survive. Yeah,
and it's substantially more common in captivity, and same with spiders. Like almost the only time black widow spiders have exhibited sexual cannibalism has been in captivity. They almost never do it in the wild because there's just an abundance of resources.
Yeah, I watched other spiders not long ago. I watched something not long ago about like a rather large, like tarantula type spider, that's like basically inhabits a desert and in a lot of like underbrush, and the male has to seek out the female in her nest, and they are usually at very high risk of not only being approved by the female, but like being killed by it straight after. So it's like, I don't remember the full details and what type of spider it was, but I remember the video like really specifying it was like this thing has to go far away that might kill it, and then find the spot, and then they might get killed in return anyway. It's like more common than the average, as it were, because and I think it was because of the environs, because of the situation where it's like there isn't much around for them to consume. So is it just a higher risk of them becoming a valuable resource to the mating partner?
Yeah. So what makes a tarantula is that most species, I can't say all because I don't know for a fact, is they don't build webs except to make nests in. So they're hunters. Yes. They go out to hunt. They go out to capture. They're opportunists. Like I think even technically trapdoor spiders are a type of tarantula because they hunt. They don't.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't wait for prey to come to them. So it makes a lot more sense for it to be exhibited in that variety of spider.
Yeah.
And then if you're a Patreon subscriber,
they're creepy.
You want to Google it.
But man, they're fascinating.
Oh, I actually quite like spiders.
Holy crazy.
Yeah, spiders don't bug me at all.
Mm.
But if you're Patreon subscriber, if you like going to Google it, there is a video in our show notes called Kung Fu Mantis versus Jumping Spider. That is a real type of mantis, and it is a real fun video.
Oh my god. I can't wait to watch that.
It strikes the mantis pose. Like that's what it does as an intimidation tactic to make it look bigger.
Amazing. I'm gonna watch that as soon as I can.
Yeah, if full fair warning for spiders. It's a real macro lens on that guy, and you got a real close up. But
okay,
if you're not bothered by spiders, then I suggest you check it out.
Sweet.
Okay, and then okay, I'm gonna fuck this up, so I'm just gonna get it out of the way. In Hackettstown, New Jersey, near the Musconetcong River. Yep, Musconetcong. Like I double checked the spelling like 4 times.
I think you. I'm seeing it. I think you nailed it. I think.
Yeah. There have been tangential sightings of a 7-foot-tall bug-like creature, coined the Mantis Man, on a show that I'm sure we can all agree is horseshit called Monsters and Mysteries in America. And we can tell it's not real because no one has ever heard of it.
Oh, that's so good.
I couldn't even find this episode on YouTube. Like, it's that obscure of a show.
Okay, cool. Mantis Man, 7-foot tall bug creature.
Yeah, turns out that's what you get if you Google mantis people. It's just a whole shit ton of references to that, and to a Japanese. It's called a property called Kamen Rider. It's a TV series, a manga, all this kind of stuff. And one of the characters in it was Mantis Man, who is the villain.
Okay.
I forgot to get photos of this because it blew I went down such a rabbit, like a Kamen Rider rabbit hole. It like literally hours of my life went away to researching the show and trying to figure out what the actual fuck it was about. But it's by the same same company who does Power Rangers and Beetleborgs. So I think it'll give you a pretty good idea. And it did come to the States for a little while, but it was like one season in 95, 96. Do not correct me on that. I don't care. But every character in the show looks like a mantis creature. There was a Godzilla villain who looks like a mantis as well, and it was in the Son of Godzilla, and it is this goofy looking creature right here.
Oh, that looks right of Starship Troopers, actually.
I mean, it was a couple of decades before Starship Troopers. I think this is 67.
Well, that's a testament to the effects, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, the Godzilla movies, the effects are great. And last but not least, I also didn't get a picture of this because I'm sure everybody can picture the character, but it's Mantis from Kung Fu Panda, voiced by Seth Rogen.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. It's been a hot minute, but yeah.
I love those movies. I watch them all the time.
Oh, it's been so long. A good time, though. Good time.
Yeah. But with that, we're going to take a quick break here, listeners, and we'll be back with you very shortly. And the stat block.
And we're back.
We are back.
We're back together. We're back.
Again.
Quick break of clock. We are now going to talk about the mechanics of the Thri-Kreen. and I'm giving this slow speech with an awkward face because I am ready to be disappointed.
Excellent.
Because they can only be pawns. Like they're just they're gonna be war fodder is what they are. They're gonna be boring. Like they're gonna be bullywugs all over again. It's what they are.
You bet they are. They
There's
are
no way.
CR1.
No, come on. Just
AC
no
15
effort.
natural. HP 33.
Brutal.
Yeah. They are medium, chaotic neutral with a 40-foot movement speed to reflect their abilities. Dark vision 60 feet, and other than that, literally nothing special to speak of. Except for their abilities.
Okay.
They're not that special, but they're okay. The first
they're
is
unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're named uniquely.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. Do go on.
The first is Chameleon Carapace. Essentially, they just have advantage on stealth checks specifically to hide because they can change the color of their carapace.
Okay, sure.
The second one is Standing Leap. Their long jump is up to 30 feet and their high jump is up to 15 with or without a running start.
So they're bullywugs. That's what you're telling me.
I've been nodding this whole time, bud.
Come on. Okay. They're non-swamp bullywugs.
Yep,
Gotcha.
they're desert bullywugs. Yeah. They have multi-attack, one bite, one claw, which is very rare for a CR1 creature, but we'll see why it's fine. Their bite is +3 to hit, 5-foot reach, 1d6 +1 piercing. But, and here's the kicker, DC 11 con saved or poisoned for 1 minute. If you fail by 5 or more, you are also paralyzed.
Ooh.
This is the part that I like. You repeat the save at the end of your turns, it ending on a success, but nowhere in the rules does it specify that you are immune for 24 hours, which I'm so happy they fucked off with that shit.
Okay, so because like the immunity for 24 hours is something that I think comes more often in earlier editions, particularly 3 and 3.5. We still see it in Pathfinder first and second edition.
Yep.
It's sort of important on a balancing scale.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is.
But when it's not specified, a GM can ruthlessly take advantage. I actually love the rare 5e rule of if it's less than 5 or more. You just don't see it often enough.
No, I agree.
It is right in the wheelhouse of Pathfinder second edition, like degrees of success, which go from critical success, failure to critical failure, which is a wonderfully dynamic system in my opinion. And so I love all of that.
That being said,
and
it's
for
a
anyone
6
wondering,
total to critically fail like that.
Yeah, like it's not a high chance. But the poisoned condition is something that kind of gets lines crossed a lot in 5e.
Yeah,
because there's poison damage and there's the poison condition. They're separate things. And from what I recall, it effectively just gives you disadvantage on most every roll.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually not a slouch. If you do fail that, you're kind of totally fucked. Pardon my French.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Not on saves. It's just on ability checks and attack rolls.
Okay. Ability checks and attack rolls. Okay. So anything you're trying to actively do. No defenses.
Said,
like you're trying
is a save an ability check?
It isn't.
Yeah.
As a technicality.
I didn't think so.
No.
I mean, it makes sense that it's not, but
yeah. There's a weird blurred line that it's not blurred so much as like misinterpreted. In that, like, you know, when you use tools, for example, in 5e, they are ability checks.
Yeah.
Because if you read any a pre-written module, they'll always say dexterity check, you know, thieves tools. Like
right.
One of them is in the parentheses. So there's always an ability attached to the thing. Whereas with a saving throw, it is like a saving throw is its own mechanic. An ability check is this mechanic. So all skill checks are ability checks,
Right.
essentially, but not saving throws are not all ability checks.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Their other attack is a claw, which is +3, 5-foot reach, and 2d4 +1 slashing. So that's not bad.
Actually, not for a CR1. It's
possible 15 damage and poisoned or paralyzed. Like, that's not bad for one turn. And chances are you're not running these as one. You're running them as a pack, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I think we all know that's how James would run it because he wants to take full advantage of the no daily immunity.
Well, they're also like pack nomadic creatures and hunters, and like one of these things, like, throw one out as like a scouting party or whatever. Sure, by all means. But
you could actually like you could almost
hear
James salivate when he's like making you roll a whole lot of defensive checks.
I can't stand up for a couple of minutes after I do it.
Oh god.
So there are a couple of other rules in the Spelljammer book for the Thri-Kreen as a PC race, as well as 3 new creature types: the Mystic, the Hunter, and the Gladiator. But we don't own Spelljammer, so I couldn't dig into it.
Oh wait, so you can play these?
Yeah, they're a playable race in Spelljammer.
Cool. Because I was honestly thinking earlier, before we even started, like the only thing I knew was these creatures were insectoid, and I'm disappointed that there aren't any insectoid races to play in 5e or even Pathfinder.
Yep.
And I was disappointed because it's a very prominent example in Starfinder, and I couldn't help but think, because the Sheeran were there, and the Sheeran are awesome. They're so cool.
Yeah, I played one.
And all I could think was insectoid, like humanoid insects, are very sci-fi-esque in my brain, and I wish they weren't. I wish they were a little more broad. And obviously, if they're coming from Spelljammer, then it's just surveying the same mode. But it just makes me happy that it's an option at all, because it should be. Like, why wouldn't a breakaway humanoid insects like be a playable character? Like, that's sorry, I got a little too excited about that.
No, it's good, man. I'm glad.
That's awesome. I want to know more.
Well, there is a little bit more. In the player's handbook, there is a psionic variant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it has another ability, which, as I'm sure you guessed, is innate spellcasting, psionics in parentheses.
Yeah.
So at will, they can cast Mage Hand, but the hand is invisible because it's mental magic. Okay. Twice per day each, Freeman. Each. They can cast Blur and Magic Weapon.
Oh.
Good spells.
That's a good combo.
At first level, that is a great fucking combo.
Hot damn.
And once per day, with a target of self only, invisibility.
Ah, damn.
We've
got the beginnings of a recurring enemy here.
They also have multi-attack.
Yeah.
2 Githka and 2 Chatka, or Chatkacha. Yep.
Nailed it.
Yeah, the Githka is +3 to hit, 5-foot reach, 1d8 +1 slashing. And the Chatkacha is a +4 to hit, but the range is 30 to 120 and 1d6 +2 slashing. So not only do they have better spells, they hit way harder.
Wait, their CR must be quite a bit higher then.
I didn't see a CR increase.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pulling up D&D Beyond right now.
Pull it up, because it could be an oversight, because if the multi-attack is 2 and 2, that's huge.
Well, I think it's because it's a variant. They don't change the CR. They just add these optional rules.
Ooh. I mean, I'm not sure that's true, because
it doesn't say there's variant rules here. I can't send it to you because if I change Discord, it's going to fuck up our video.
That's fair. But like, it's not even just the increase in available attacks, but the damage dice across the board have gone up.
Yep.
So That's that's very that's very powerful. That's the one I would use
Yeah.
for all
Well,
of them.
so like these are variant
Literally all of
weapons and psionics. Like so, like
Yeah.
don't with these variant rules, don't feel like you have to use all of them or none of them, right? Like maybe a couple
Oh,
of
so it's
them
like,
have Chot-Kachas and a couple of them are psionics with Githkas,
oh,
or
okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah,
like you can
that's a
definitely,
fair. That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can definitely use this creature as is, but this particular variant block is designed to help you build out a variation in your enemies.
Hmm.
But by all means, like throw this creature as a CR5 at your party and call it a day. Like this is the brute who's invisible and
Yeah.
has this fucking crescent shaped pole staff.
Yeah, I'm going to town. That's
Yeah.
so fun.
But that's that. I mean, I want to say that's it, but like that's a pretty good stat block for a 1E creature. Like all
Um,
around.
yeah, I guess ultimately for a CR1, which is a disappointing CR, it's
Oh, I
pretty
missed
not
a
bad.
word. The multi attack is 2 Githka attacks or 2 Chatkacha attacks.
Okay, it is an or, not an and.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I was suspect about that. It's still powerful though. It's
Yeah.
but yeah. Um yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I guess it would be nice if these creatures had even just a more traditional like hive mind-esque approach to them, like you would expect from an insect race. Like yeah, it's maybe predictable, but it would at least give it more flavor, more mechanical flavor, minimum. Um, I kind of love the idea of when you compare them to the Sheeran and Starfinder, where sort of their shtick is that if you do play one, it's because they've broken off and escaped a hive mind, and so that plays into their uniqueness and how they have this affinity for community, but have this struggle for independence at the same time. They have this dichotomy to them that's really really neat and conflicting. I think that would be really cool to see with a creature like this. And furthermore, also like maybe even adding a weakness to compulsion because it is what they would be used to. Assuming you had a foundation of a hive mind kind of concept. So
Right.
imagine like
Where
you have
actually
these
it's
creatures
the other
that
way in Starfinder. They have a strength against compulsion.
mm, right. But I love the idea of like psionic powers being sort of otherworldly, as it were, and perhaps that otherworldliness is even blocked by the crystal sphere of the Forgotten Realms and whatnot, to a degree. But like if you have an elder brain here on Abertoral, and somehow Thri-Kreen has managed to find its way into the fold of some Illithids. They're weak to their own degree to like join into a different hive mind after they escaped another, because maybe their biology or what have you is like attuned to it. I think it's a really cool sort of like um story concept, that I mean it borders on like this really intense um consent versus natural affinity kind of idea and themes. It's like it can be very touchy for sure, very very sensitive, but could make for some pretty incredible storytelling, I think, if done correctly and with a lot of thought.
Yeah, I
Am I
can't
making sense?
disagree with you. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It's not the way I would go with it. I like that
Yeah.
this is a unique take on traditional insectoids and that it's not a hive mind. I like that each
Hmm.
one of these creatures is an individual, and I'm sure in the concept of their pride or colony, they're responsible for their actions. And I like that idea that
Right.
they're not this primitive thing. They just appear to be because they don't have access to a common spoken language. Um, they just have these twitches or pictures in the sand or this mental ability or however you as a GM really want to justify it. There are plenty of examples in the
Mhm.
5e monster manual to help you flesh that out.
Mhm.
But I like the idea that you can go rogue. And I'm here for the emphasis on the colony. Like we are the
Yeah.
Thri-Kreen, we are a
Yeah.
people, and I like the idea of breaking away from that. And your character is a refuge, or they're a rebel, or they're the individual. They're they're having a midlife crisis, or they're a teen out on rebellion, or summering in Europe, or like they're getting to know the
Yeah.
local area, and that's how you meet that PC is that they're summering in the town to learn the common language or to learn Elven or to become the next great diplomat, and they end up becoming this great warrior along the way.
Right. Yeah, I guess my brain was a little stuck there on the ant concept as opposed to the individual insect. Um,
Huge difference between
so
mantis and ants. Yeah,
huge, yeah, big difference. So I guess that's fair. Um,
but your way sounds great too.
but
Like I love that the lore
yeah,
of the Shirin. That's
uh,
uh,
it's one of my
and yeah,
favorites.
and that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I was drawn to play that race after my Patra died.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah, but he was great. He was really fun. He showed his
Yeah, it
individuality
was
by
pretty
wearing
cool. Yeah.
different band
Yep.
T-shirts every
No.
day.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess I wish I think what I feel like is missing ultimately is more elaboration on the culture of this creature. And specifically in our our debate about, I say debate, conversation about the chaos versus lawful. There just isn't enough there to make the decision and to understand this creature very well.
yeah.
So create your own, listeners. Figure
I
it out.
I actually don't mind that either. I think that might
Yeah.
it's probably an oversight, but I like to think that's by design and it's to encourage you to
Hmm.
creatively think and flush out those things for yourself in your own
Yeah.
race. Even though it's probably just we're done with the Thri-Kreen, move on. We have a
Yeah.
deadline.
You know what really makes me think of is like just like these creatures maybe are fiercely independent as individuals for the most part. They maybe seldom gather, but when they do gather, it's a familial settlement. But like go well beyond this CR1 idea and even well beyond the psionic variants and stuff, and create like a really badass desert bounty hunter. Like go go Boba Fett bullshit like in Star Wars right now. Just do it. Like create an NPC that is just like so different and beyond its own people, and let alone anything else that your PCs encounter. Make a really unique NPC out of this with that sense of independence and uh I don't know how to phrase it, but like that lack of like care when like if you don't survive then you weren't meant to, like um that could be a really fun side and story NPC to like add into your mix.
Yeah. Or not to counterpoint because I think that's a great fucking
Mhm.
idea. But you have this ambush of Thri-Kreen pop out and murk get murked by your party. There's one
Mhm.
that holds up, and as you're about, your player already rolls the killing blow. You, as a GM, this creature looks up at you with no fear in its eyes and speaks to you, and like actually speaks out in whatever the local language is. And all of a sudden, this giant creature that was only communicating with clicks and whistles before is like humming to you in, I don't know, Knoll.
Common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
common's the obvious
Common.
choice,
Yeah.
but I
Whatever it
always,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying
Yeah.
to go,
Yeah.
draconic, like,
Yeah.
like, and just start speaking draconic, and that'll blow your
And
PC's
have that
fucking
moment you're
socks
like,
off.
oh, this thing is not dumb. Holy shit. Like we just killed intelligent creatures. We killed a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
And,
I feel like
maybe
there's
it turns
actually
it into
there's
an
some.
NPC, and that NPC is ashamed because they were
Mhm.
destroyed by this party and they should be dead. And their whole social belief is the strong survive. And this creature was spared mercy by your party. And what kind of conflicts will that bring in their society, in their home life, in their daily life?
Mm,
Will they be shunted out?
yeah,
Like all of a sudden you've now got a party NPC to carry their gold or whatever because they can't fucking go
yeah.
home.
I feel like there's a certain amount of um credence that should be given to these creatures in regards to like a monastic approach,
Hmm.
especially if they're in like really harsh environments. Like I think a monk monastery of Thri-Kreen would be really really cool.
Yeah.
And they teach you, you could use that as a sort of arc in which you can learn, the PCs can learn, and they could teach you techniques that would normally require forearms, something like that. But
Right.
they find a way to teach you how to do it. Yeah, so like probably like really incredibly defensive techniques or something like that. Um, or like techniques that involve taking your hand off your weapon quickly to do something else and putting it back on. Like just get real nitty gritty with that. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
They're
that
ripe
that
for the
would be
picking,
huge.
that's for sure.
Yeah, or maybe you lock you lock a monk ability behind this monastery. Like your monk wants to be, when they hit the third level, I want to go way of the open hand. So all of a sudden they have to find this Thri-Kreen monastery so he can study to, excuse me,
Right.
to become a monk of the way of the open hand. Like you unlock
Hmm.
these third level abilities as opposed to just hand them
Mm.
out. You
Right.
tie
Yeah.
all of them to the monastery somehow, whether you've got a druid and they want to be a druid of Sylvanas or whatever, you've got.
Yeah.
However, but like that could be a really interesting arc too. Instead of just, okay, you're third level, you know this shit now. It's like, okay, you're third level, go get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be really cool. I'm super into it. Uh, I'm into this. I'm into these creatures just for the sole purpose of creative restructuring.
Yeah.
you know.
So you're into 5e is what you're saying.
Eh.
What about you, listeners? How would you alter, change, build the first part of a campaign around the Thri-Kreen? We absolutely want to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter or Facebook at EncounterPod or Instagram at Encounter.pod, where we'll be throwing up as many of these images as we possibly can. If you want to check out some of our past episodes, like our first attempt at doing this on video, the Rust Monster, you can find that and all of our back catalog at encounterthis.ca. All of our socials during this video have been popping up periodically at the bottom of the video. And if you like this and you want to help us make more of these or make them better, or I don't know. I mean, we're not going to make them better. This is about as good as it gets. So I guess if you like it, you can find us on patreon.com/encounterpod. $5 a month will get you a handwritten thank you letter and access to our show notes. So you can see the document we produced these from. There's a whole shit ton of links in here. And for $10 a month, you can suggest a creature. Maybe you want to see us do, I don't know, what's another Spelljammer race? The Gith. Maybe you want to see us do a Gith sweep, the Yonki and the Zerai. That will
so
be
fun.
yeah. And for $10 a month, you can make it happen. But at least if you can, we'd appreciate a rate and review on your platform of choice. But most of all, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And if anyone out there who has watched and listened who is a severe case of entomophobia, we apologize.
Did you throw the M in there to be cute? Is it entomophobia?
Entomophobia. I Googled it before I said it. Come on now.
All right. I don't know what the fuck you're doing over there. I can't see anything below your shoulders.
Like entomology, entomophobia.
Okay. Entomophoba. Do not care for that word. It sounds like a cute way of saying it.
It's like the fear of butterflies is lepidopterophobia.
Yeah. Just okay.
Hmm.
All right, Latin.
Okay.
Keep doing you.
Bye.
Bye.